So, I'm on an electric scooter, and this is an Indian brand, Aether 450X. I posted a review a couple of months and weeks ago, and I am now just checking out, wanting to discuss just the widespread number of EVs in town and just what that could imply. Both the demand side, the supply, the importer business side, as well as something from the customer's perspective. One, that tells me it's great. You have so many different brands of EVs from like never before heard Chinese EVs, some Indian brands too, and then you have like larger Thai brands, you have Korean brands, you have some German brands. I don't know if I want to say the BMW iX cars in town qualify here, but hey, it is here, so I'm not gonna complain. You have British brands like Land Rover bringing their hybrids, Toyota bringing their hybrids. This Aether being Indian, you have like these never heard of brands before like Pluto and Tailg and I don't even know so many different other brands. And you have like upcoming Chinese brands like Yeda and I don't even know. I feel like at least in the two-wheeler market there's like a ton of Chinese brands coming in, and naturally they're all inclined to come in and open shop in the country because they saw that the people are very willing to adopt EV technology here in Nepal, and I don't see why not. You know what I mean? Like, the government has kept aside much lesser taxes for EVs in Nepal as compared to their petrol counterpart. And then as a result, you just get more bike, more car than your petrol counterpart. Also, on top of that, I think what's really mouthwatery to customers is the cost of running. It's a liter of petrol at 170 to 190 rupees, depending on the situation, whereas electricity has been pretty much a staple at around 8 to 15 rupees, depending on your geographical location within the country. So, why would you not opt for that? You also have much less wear and tear on EV motors and driving systems, riding systems, as compared to petrol because there's just a lot less parts in these that are actually spinning and like moving here and there. And so when you go for servicing, you need to go for servicing far less, but on top of that, you also don't need to spend as much. You don't have mobile changes, sprocket changes, spark ignition plug changes, nothing. It's just a motor that spins a belt drive, at least in this scooter, or in the other, it's an actual hub motor that spins the wheel on itself through a couple of gears. There's no spark, there's no piston, there's no ignition. I feel like it's a win-win for like low maintenance and large distance commutes. But it's because of that tax system the government has put in. EVs are unfavorably cheaper than their petrol counterparts. I've talked about this quite a lot, but it doesn't make sense EV cars being half the price as petrol cars, or petrol cars of like way lesser segments being more expensive than EVs. You know what I mean? And I feel like in bikes too, you're getting a lot more bike and car. Just that the downside about bikes is just the sheer physical size of bikes limit range, at least with current technology, to about 100 kilometers a full charge, maybe lesser depending on your model. Whereas in cars, most cars do come with 100 kilometers, and then they go up all the way to a lot more. But performance wise, like check this out. I am now going to switch into warp mode. I am now at 40. 75? Like what? 80? 90? Are you kidding me? Alright, I'm gonna slow down. I'm still going 60. Like, did you see that? Electric vehicles have come a long way with their instant torque and their powerful motors to the point where customers generally don't mind having EV vehicles over the petrol counterpart. It was a very quick adoption rate here in Nepal, and that sent a signal to businessmen, importers that there is a demand in the country for electric vehicles, whether two or four wheelers. Not everyone can afford four wheelers, and I do understand that incentive. And naturally, there is now a very booming demand of all these two and four wheelers, like this bus in front of me. Sazayat. They even brought EV buses, but there was this like lack of communication and infrastructure development on charging those big boys. You can't charge a big ass bus the same way you could a private car or the scooter. You'll need proper infrastructure for that. And so a lot of cases, a lot of cars came in, two wheelers came in, but there just wasn't a charging infrastructure. And in a country like Nepal, it's basically a when there's no like law that says someone is accountable for these fast chargers around the country. Anyone or no one can do it. Basically, there are permissions to be taken, but basically, I haven't at least heard of any rule that says for every 10 cars sold, put up a fast charger in the country, or there should be this many number of fast DC charging for cars of private ownership and of public ownership. I don't know. And so a lot of these companies that bring in electric vehicles really don't put them up, and so as a result customers buy them with that whole incentive of cheap prices, low maintaining costs. But then I wouldn't say they get scammed, but then they are in a bit of a pinch when their vehicle range isn't as much as advertised. Also, can I be very fair? Nepali laws aren't, consumer rights laws aren't that strict, but false advertising of a product can lead to like millions in legal cases and battles abroad. Like if you're gonna sell a product, an electric vehicle, saying it has 200 kilometers of range through the different estimations, but then in reality it'll give you like 100 maybe. Yeah, that's not fun, is it? Not fun for the consumer, and that business will suffer reputation wise. I mean, units will be sold, but it's affecting everyone. And that's how you get sued abroad. Really, really bad. But here, I haven't seen that. But anyway, getting back to my whole spiel. A lot of brands coming in, a lot of different brands coming in, and not too much of enforcement on charging infrastructure. Like this bike, I'm very, very pleasantly satisfied with it. Like I've been testing it around the valley, and in the Bhatpaniri superstores around town, there are fast free chargers. One for now. Maybe when the volume of charger bikes sold increases, they might add more. Maybe you won't need more. Who knows? But I just felt so good that I did not have range anxiety. This bike has a range estimation of about 110 kilometers if driven economically. And for a city the size of Kathmandu or Pokhara, 100 kilometers to go here and there is a lot. And the best part about this was I could actually ride this bike to like the outskirts of the valley, like which I'm doing right now. Because one, it has enough range to get back home, but two, there are also fast chargers around town. Fast chargers as in like 0 to 80% in an hour sort of fast charging. And I think that's cool, which most EV two-wheeler suppliers have not put in. I wish they did, but they've just left it at custom for customers. And that also ultimately brings me on to the next thing about in general servicing, the after sales service, like after you purchase a bike, the sort of service you may or may not get. Whoa, a Kia EV6. Nice. Very high-end cars in town now. And that's what I'm trying to get at. You have all these bikes giving out warranties saying, I will provide you this and that in case these parts and batteries and motor and vehicle fails, but are the suppliers accountable to that? And now I'm speaking in the point of view of a customer like myself. Is there reliability in the brand you are purchasing an electric vehicle of? Are they able to? Do they have the technicians to like replace a battery if something happened to it? You know, almost all electric vehicles, I haven't heard of a single electric vehicle, bike, scooter, car, not being sold without warranty at least a couple of years. Cars usually have 5 to 8 years of warranty on the battery. Bikes usually have 3 to 5 years, maybe less, but at least 1 or 2 years minimum. And so, are these brands that you just hear out of the blue holding themselves accountable to like fixing broken products here and there? I don't know, and it honestly sort of freaks me out a bit, in the sense this is a big purchase you're going to be making, but will that purchase pay off? Like, what if something happens tomorrow and it doesn't start? Are there enough mechanics? Are there enough spare parts to like diagnose and fix it? Or will you be decommissioned a vehicle without a vehicle for like over a month? I don't know. At least with all these brands that I haven't heard before. I'm not saying having options and different brands is a bad thing, but I am saying, will they all be able to provide the same service? You have some big brands over the others, I'm not gonna mention, that will be able to back up their claims, but the smaller ones, I really hope that they do. I, as an EV user, just looking in traffic these days when I'm stuck, see so many like EV vehicles. I'm naturally inclined towards cars, but I also see a ton of two-wheeler vehicles. And while I know the names of most four-wheeler, oh, a plane, I do not know the company names of like these two-wheelers, and I am hence genuinely afraid about that part. Anyway, I'm not trying to end on a grim note. I'm trying to say that I'm happy to see the diversity, the options that customers have at different price points to afford electric vehicles as compared to just 3-4 years ago in the early 20s versus the mid late 20s now. And I think that is fantastic. Okay, like prime example of what I mean. In front of me is a German EV. This is an Audi Q4 e-tron. Like, you have extremely low-end EVs that you've just never heard of, but you've also got like extremely high-end EVs like this car in front where you just don't know what you are expecting when you purchase it. Anyway, well, I guess I'd like to end on that note, and I'll see you next time.